Mitch,
135
here.
guys.
Where's the guy? Where do you fall? Show me where you fall. Bang, 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 bang. The second or third movie I ever made when I was 13, 14 years old, I made a movie called Escape to Nowhere, which was a World War II action adventure film, and made that about 25 minutes long. And after that, I went right in, stuck with the war, and made a Air Force movie called Fighter Squadron when I was about 14 years old. And that film was also shot in 8mm, and it was black and white. It was my first time I ever made a black and white movie, actually, and because I kind of had seen all the documentaries of World War II, and they were all in black and white in those days. Went out to the Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, and they had a whole bunch of old World War II airplanes and mothballs. And that was a World War II film. So I've kind of had an obsession with World War II. My dad fought in World War II. He was a radio man aboard a B-25 during the Burma campaign. He brought from the war the leather jackets, the goggles, the leather hats that the airmen used to wear. And I remember just having access to my dad's medals, and I used the actual, outfit that he brought back from Burma to make these movies with. And I guess in a sense, I've been fascinated with the 1940s, and that, clearly half of my films take place in the 1930s and 40s. But I don't think I've ever done anything like this movie. I don't think I've ever done anything closely resembling the war that we've attempted to bring to life in Private Ryan. This movie is about the veterans. It's for the veterans of World War II. If it weren't for those veterans, none of us would be having the lives we're having today. The research I did was pretty much the kind of research I do when I'm making any film that's supposed to be about reality. You can't research, E.T. You can't research, a movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark, but you can research a film based on fact, and this film certainly is based on fact. They've opened and let the park breathe. It breathes more now. It's much more tightly, you were funneled into the reveal in 1972 when I was here last. There were a lot of interesting documentaries that I grew up with about World War II, certainly about the Holocaust, which influenced me greatly to make Schindler's List. But then again, newsreel footage about the Ardennes, Omaha Beach, and the push to Paris, and great documentaries have been made about World War II. And I've kind of been obsessed with a lot of those old documentaries. I wasn't really looking far and wide to make a World War II film, although I admire them and I've seen so many of them. But it was the story that I found out was based on a fact, that there was a young private who dropped in with the 101st Airborne into Normandy before the D-Day invasion, whose 3 brothers were killed over a span of 1 week, and he was the last surviving child in this family. And they did send a squad to find him and then to get him back to his home.
At the 50th anniversary, there were a lot of books that came out, 50th anniversary of D-Day, and I was reading one of them, and there was a small mention of the Nealon family, in which 3 brothers were killed, and one had parachuted behind German lines with the 101st, and the War Department snatched him out of there and struck me. I said, what do you mean snatched? I mean, how do you snatch a guy out of this situation? So that's sort of where the movie came from. Early in the war, there was a family named Sullivans. There were 5 of them, and they were all serving on the same ship, the Juno, which sank, and they all died.
The War Department obviously was very affected by the tragedy and had struck a policy where siblings could not serve in the same unit.
Which is unlike earlier wars, the Civil War and the American Revolution. Units were geographically based, so families were regularly wiped out in earlier wars. And the Sullivan brothers thing was so painful for so many people that they had the rule that they couldn't serve together.
So the tragic irony here is that 3 siblings died in 3 different units. So that was the hook that grabbed me and made me very carefully read the script by Robert Rodat. Oh my God.
Pennsylvania.
You looked at Pennsylvania? Is that where it came from?
Yeah.
How did we pick this spot?
We just did.
Richard Miller.
Adley, Pennsylvania, right?
Adley, Pennsylvania came from.
I wonder where in Pennsylvania.
Tom is going to have a seizure when he sees this. Because this is where we picked the shot right there. And you said, here's a Miller.
Mr. Rivers.
Mr. Rivers said, here's a Miller, and our Miller's from Pennsylvania, so is...
This is where our stone's going, right here.
Right here. That's pretty amazing. So it was meant to be. It was meant to go right on that spot. My dad always explained to me how unglamorous war was, and I never forgot that. So war wasn't glamorous to me. And yes, I've glamorized war in the Raiders movies because those are cliffhanger Hollywood, extravaganzas. And that's fun to do. This film isn't fun to do in that way because this is really trying to approximate the look and the smells of what battle and combat is really like. And that's very difficult for the whole crew. Everybody sees the dailies and they realize that we're not making glamour. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 41 years old today. Today I am 41 years old. Today I am a man.
This time last year, we celebrated your 40th.
That's right, we did indeed.
Tom and I kind of came upon the project at the same time, coincidentally. And also coincidentally, we're such close friends personally. And we had never really discussed working together as director, actor. We had always been happy with our kids playing and going on vacations together, and our wives are best friends. And we didn't want to jeopardize the friendship, and so we never really talked about working together. Tom, independent of my read, had read Private Ryan, and when Richard Lovett at CAA told Tom that I was about to commit to it, Tom said, well, this poses a difficult dilemma in my life because I'm about to commit to it. And Tom had to, do some soul searching to see whether he wanted to mix business with personal, and so did I. So we got on the phone together and basically never had one conversation about whether we should mix personal with business. We just began saying, wow, what a great script, and we can do so much with it, and what an amazing story, and was it really true, and what wasn't true, and what was true about it. And before you knew it, we were caught up in the blizzard of enthusiasm, and we wound up making the movie.
Who is he? I don't think you're supposed to know anything. The man of mystery thing enters in here. I mean, he's a captain because he has these bars on his helmet that, differentiates him from everybody else. But beyond that, you find out his first name after about a half hour. And after that, I think it's all a matter of who is he? His own men don't know where he's from. They don't know what he does for a living. They don't know his social status. And they don't know what, what his motivations are, which is one of the great attractions to the role, I don't often get to play men of mystery.
Action! Hey, 101st! Anybody know a Private James Ryan?
Tom is great at playing everyman, and it's a great compliment to say that Tom is a new Jimmy Stewart, although I think when history looks back on Tom, they'll say that he was the best Tom Hanks anybody ever could be. Yes, that's where he goes. You want to always hold Tom in the shot. I was completely thrilled that we were able to do this movie together and agree on everything, and even agree to disagree. And we haven't had a single disagreement on this movie. Tom's had tremendous suggestions that have only benefited the film, and I made suggestions about his character, which he's accepted. So it's all been wonderful. That's great. It'll be all with them. That's a great idea.
I remember the first time I saw that great Thames documentary, The World at War. This was a very vivid thing that came through. And I'm always sort of searching out new pieces of footage that I've never seen before. Or trying to find those kind of books and writings that make it a very human experience as opposed to a tactical one. Then you can have some of the Stephen Ambrose's books, of which there are quite a few, that really bring it down to guys named Steve and Chuck. That's always been fascinating to me because it's a grand adventure story in one way, but it is also a very human story. Because it actually happened, it always raises the stakes for me somehow, because I'm essentially fascinated by that.
I always thought this movie should have been called Saving Captain Miller, because this really is about a man who's in search of his lost decency. And how do you find decency in the middle of World War II? And so in a sense, one of the themes of the story is the search for decency, and it's also a search for who is Miller, and who is that person, who was that person, who is now in uniform and killing people in massive quantities. Who was he? When I saw Brothers McMillan, I just saw him as Ryban. I immediately saw him as Ryban. He has a kind of that dry Brooklyn quality, and he gets a laugh without milking the cow. Although we wound up with a lot of East Coast characters that happened to wind up in this one unit.
Put a dressing on that arm right there.
Giovanni Ribisi seems very East Coast, even though he's not from the East Coast. And Vin Diesel's from the East Coast, and I think that Tom Sizemore has some East Coast in him. So it might feel a little New York-y in the sense that perhaps this division, they all came from Yonkers and the Bronx and Brooklyn and the boroughs, let your eyes just drift out and just listen to the music. And whatever it brings out of you, let it bring out of you. Whatever it makes you feel. I'll play the Jeremy, he's just a very gifted actor, and he's a very original human being. He's able to take a character and turn him into something different that's not on the page. Cut! Good.
Stephen, he's very, very highly tuned to the act. He's very hypersensitive to, the little details of human nature.
We had a scene early on. It was one of the early scenes after the D-Day invasion. We had shot a scene that was in the script that he wasn't really happy with. Not with the performance, but just with the scene itself. So what we did was one morning we came in and he said, why don't you guys do an improv thing in character and just talk about death and God. And we kind of rambled through this thing for about 10 minutes and he tape recorded it. And about a week later, he had the improv transcribed and had the writer write a new scene from it. And it was just an incredible scene. So, I mean, he's that kind of guy. He wants the input from us.
Any scene involving the characters sort of exploring their fragilities are the ones that surprise me the most. But when the actors and Stephen sort of come alive, that's when I get startled and I say, hey, I didn't write that. Great.
Great. Let me hear the playback. Come on. Let me hear the playback.
Because I just didn't say anything. People my age, we can't relate to this. We have to look at this point in history books, or what I like to do is track down people who were there, who were in Normandy and who were in certain battles here and there in France. I actually lost my great uncle in Nantes, France, who was in a tank. And to talk to people who remember that time and who remember those people, you can start to get a sense of what it was like, and then that helps you recreate the stuff a little bit.
Stephen, he can come in and look at the situation and pick out shots immediately and know how they'll connect and how they'll cut together. He cuts as it goes along. It's amazing. I've never seen anyone work that fast.
Cut, print. Cut. Good. Turn around.
Everybody is here to make a movie together, and there's no kind of wandering off into your own department. No, well, this is and my process and all this stuff. You know, Stephen knows exactly how the movie is going to go, and so it's kind of like everybody getting together and doing it. And Captain Dye is one of those elements, and he's invaluable.
On that BAR, stand by.
I'm a retired captain.
Fire!
I fought in Southeast Asia and in the Middle East. I felt that much of the movies that were being done about the military, about the American fighting man, were nonsense. So I came to Hollywood full of bright and shining promises and ideas about how I could fix all of this. I believe that there's a certain heart and a certain spirit that's common throughout fighting men. And I think that actors who are like dry sponges until you pour on the water and the liquid and that sort of thing need to be immersed in the rigorous lifestyle, in the horrors that infantrymen and combat people all over the world face. And so to the extent that insurance and lifestyles will allow, I immerse those actors in that lifestyle.
I wasn't at the boot camp experience. I had a chance to go. I volunteered myself out of it. One of the privileges of being the director, I don't have to go to boot camp. Tom's a big movie star. He could have easily bowed himself out of it, but with great enthusiasm, he plunged into it.
You have to understand, we're essentially playing guys who are tired and miserable and who'd want to go home. Of whom great physical things are being demanded of constantly. And we couldn't have done that without having gone through something like Dale Dye put us through.
The boot camp, it was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
5 days, 4 nights. It was pissing rain and pretty cold. And, you essentially, I guess, simulate what it's like being out in the field.
On paper, it sounds fantastic, but when you're out there, I found plenty of arguments against it.
We hiked all over the place, and it was raining, and it was cold, and it was wet, and we slept on the ground, and we ate food that came out of cans and were heated up over, little tiny stoves. We had him constantly yelling at us because we were doing things wrong.
We eat rations, live in pup tents, get up at 5 in the morning and do PT, physical training, to the point of total mental and physical exhaustion.
It was something that I'd probably never do again, but something that I will always be thankful that I completed.
The first 3 days was weapons training. We learned about all the tanks and the artillery and how to strip our own weapons. Like, this is a sniper rifle with a unital special scope for long distance firing. We learned things like how to strip your rifle and how to clean it, and how to load it, how to properly fire it. For me in particular, sniper techniques. This is a special strap hold that allows you to have a really strong holding position before you fire. It tightens up and strengthens your hold on the rifle. We taught marching and hand signals, all kinds of different maneuver tactics.
We learned various combat techniques and whatnot, but that's not really as important, I think, as just experiencing this idea of you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you're carrying something very heavy on your back all day long, and you have a few moments in order to lay down in the grass and maybe go to sleep, but then you have to get up and your day's not over till 2 o'clock in the morning.
The one thing that I tried to do when we were in boot camp was when I was feeling miserable or when I was just having any experiences that were unfamiliar to me, just trying to hold on to them and remember them so that when I was doing the film, I could, go back to that and say, all right, that's where my head was when I was feeling that way, and try and just sort of muster that emotion back up.
I think that was really good for the movie because I guess as an actor, to some degree, you kind of want to block out your personal existence and get into the reality of what's going on in the movie,
They had a total of 10 days training, of which 6 days were spent under canvas in the field in typical British weather, pouring rain and cold and chilly, and it was very rugged on them, very tough. Sometimes we had night exercises. They slept very little. They ate twice a day, British rations, if they didn't upset me that day. And they went through a very grueling and rigorous weapons handling curriculum, the business of infantry tactics, the business of what it's like to live with this sort of thing.
Reload and commence fire. On the firing line, stand by. Fire!
I take them to the field, I make them eat rations, I shoot at them with blank ammunition, I beat them up, I beat on them, I make them crawl and sleep in the mud and the cold and the dirt. And when they come out the other end, if I've done my job successfully, they have at least an inkling of what it's like, the deprivations, the hardships that people sacrifice to serve their country in the military. And I think in large measure, they got that soldier spirit. They understand it now.
One of the things you're trying to teach us is that you don't win a war, or you don't do anything by yourself. It really is teamwork. And if another guy's having a hard time, he can't get his gear on, you stop and you help him out. It's a brotherhood. And we got a taste of that kind of thing, and it brought us closer together. So when we started shooting the movie, we felt a bond, that we had gone through something very difficult together.
Captain Dye said to us in boot camp, I want you to bring honor to that fraternity of men that died for your freedom. And to me, I think that is something that I'll always carry in the file throughout this film.
Frankly, when we started, I was at the very bottom of their Christmas card list. But it's never failed in all the 30 or so movies that I've done that every youngster who has been able to grasp what I'm trying to explain to him, who's understood where we're trying to go, the tribute that we're trying to pay, the honor and homage that we're trying to do. Everyone who's understood that has come and said, thank you. Thank you for showing me a little glimpse into that lifestyle.
I can tell you that all of us will tell you that if we hadn't gone through that, we never would have been able to get through the first day of shooting.
Had it not been for boot camp, this would be a lot harder movie to make for all the lads. But having gone to boot camp, so far, the guys have said we've never even come close to the hell they suffered under Dale Dye at boot camp, on the set every day working with me. So in a way, boot camp was the greatest thing for the morale that they could have done, and for their training, to really turn them into soldiers. How many squibs do we have in there?
Finding out, sir. Finding out.
Because they're going to have to do eye-ear coordination,
Okay.
Had I not made Schindler's List, I would have still used the same documentary approach to making Ryan. And only in the battle sequences. The rest of the film, the story part of the film is not documentary, and it's not approached that way. But the combat scenes are like newsreel footage, combat cameramen. We all feel we're combat cameramen, telling the story. I would have done that technique had I not made Schindler's List, because that would have further deglamorized the tendency to glorify violence and to make this look almost attractive.
Everybody in the foxhole needs to start yelling grenade, grenade when they start running out. Okay, Sergio?
The preparation period of this film is not unlike an average year in the life of a 1930s or 1940s director. And I didn't want to do that. At one point in my life, I didn't want to see what it was like for John Ford or Howard Hawks or Michael Curtiz to make 3 films in a single year, which they did several times, more than several times. And it just so happened that the only 2 projects I had committed to was Lost World, which I had been a year and a half in preparation on, and then Saving Private Ryan. Amistad was years away, still in development. So the preparation on Ryan occurred overlapping Lost World. And it was very convenient to do Ryan then. Tom Sanders was working on the models, and I was doing some preliminary casting. Go this way a bit, Tom. Ah, good. Ed. Good. And Miller right there. What threw everything off and turned me more into one of those 1940s style directors was when Amistad came out brilliantly in the rewrite. And I decided almost compulsively to direct the movie between the last shot of Lost World and the beginning of Private Ryan, which means I had a 4-week break after Lost World before I began shooting Amistad, and a 6-week break from my last shot of Amistad to my first shot of Saving Private Ryan. Let's shoot, please.
Okay,
Good.
let's get ready for a take.
Because of that, I couldn't come over here and do all the recce's that I usually do and look at all the locations and walk through the town and plan my shots. In a sense, that became, for me, a blessing in disguise.
Baker coming, 506. You got the broken foot, he's 506, right?
Yeah, Charlie, I think. Thanks.
Cut, quick, next shot.
That's a cut. New deal, moving on.
All the difference in the world. Because I'm actually much better when I hit the deck running than when I sit down angsting over 1,000 drawings, which tends to narrow my imagination when I get to the set. Because then I look at the set and I complain, oh my God, this is not like my drawings. How can I get this humongous set to conform to the drawings I made a year ago? And I'll sometimes move a building a couple of feet to get the drawing right, to get it to conform to the drawing. Try one where it's really fast, and all the things you're saying is just done a lot faster. I want to get some trees in the background, maybe that scary tree right there. That's kind of nice. See all those branches? That's the shot, guys.
And the trucks, everything must
We're
go.
up here.
And cut.
Composition B's.
Okay, next shot is a reverse.
Okay, check the gate there, deal.
And this way, I really was able to hit each of the sets the way the soldiers had never had a recce before they got to a mission's goal. They never, knew what Omaha Beach looked like when they were in the Higgins boats coming over from Portsmouth. They wound up there and they made the best with what they had and what intel they were given by their commanders. No, it was good. Put that one leg up. Don't lay him flat. Yeah, put it up. So I really felt much more like a newsreel cameraman. Never having seen these sets before, I could get here and survive with the crew and the cast in fighting house to house and working my way in defense of the bridge and trying to keep the Germans to the east of the bridge as hard as I possibly could. And so I think it's helped the movie, not giving me those 12 months to sit down there and storyboard.
No, Ryan, get down, get down!
I like the smoke. The smoke's very real because I can see through it. It's very real.
Maybe the Germans moving.
Yeah.
That's long, man.
God, that's great. That's
long.
Will you overlap one guy on fire?
That was long.
Let's go to this one. Let's go to Shays.
The village set at Hatfield was the primary set in the movie, aside from the beach invasion set. We started looking outside London because we needed a space that was large. We needed a space that we could control, that we weren't going to have too many issues with neighbors in terms of the noise and flying planes and firing shells and making a lot of explosions and noise. And our location supervisor found Hatfield.
We're at Hatfield Aerodrome, which is north of London. We were able to acquire this whole property to use as a backlot. Most of the studios now don't really have backlots, so we got not only workshop space and studio space, but we got this great backlot within a stone's throw of London.
And when we got to Hatfield, it was essentially a field. And so Tom's design, again with Stephen, was to create 2 sets in one, divided by a river.
We decided that it would be better to build a river for control, environmental reasons. And we actually started in a grass field and we dug the river back here.
And we put a liner in there and filled it with 2 or 3 feet of water. And then built a village on both sides of the river.
We built a model of a French village. I went through did 3 trips in France and picked a bunch of villages up. So we did like the best of French villages. So we actually built this whole town in model form, and then we slowly went in and bombed it until we achieved the desired effect.
How do you bomb a model?
Carving knives.
In terms of the construction, you know, it took about 3 to 4 months to build that set.
Then we put the model in the middle of the set, and there's a key for everybody that's building the set. They can look at the model and they know what they're building.
You know, I think the guys had a lot of fun, you know, with the detailing of it. It's unusual to, you know, to essentially create a set and then take it apart again to create the shelled out effect.
This side comes
just
out.
the fascia.
But this side doesn't come down?
No. So see, you can just see where the paint just changes.
So the whole side comes down.
The whole front. The windows, all the windows. That blows out. Bottom windows blow out. The 4 top windows
Jeremy,
drop down.
we got a great position with you over there. I can't lean too far forward, but you should be putting those slinging 30 cal around your neck like necklaces. Getting ready to, when this whole building comes, this whole front comes down, and you'll see that. You get it in front row seat. And we'll probably do one more shot where we don't have the smoke obliterating the possible. Probably one more shot just on the 2 guys escaping and the whole wall coming down. And a 4th camera starting here and following the debris down. This camera's a waste. I would actually go up on top of the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah? And shoot over the top. Why don't you do that now?
Okay.
Let's get it on top and we'll get it there.
Can we get just the path, Martin, cleared out for that run through?
Yes, we will, yeah.
Can we test this now? Great. That'll be great.
Okay.
Let's get the cameras in position. Let's get everybody back so we know who's going to be where when we do the shot, please.
Where does Ryan get saved from?
Guys, just
Show me where he gets saved from, where he physically is. No, start him over here more.
That's the crane is moving over the building. There's a lot of rubble coming down. Guys, we gotta go. Come on. Let's not waste time with that. Sergio, roll the camera. And roll all the cameras now. And 3, 2, 1, go! And cut! And cut! You guys okay?
Jeremy, want to come see yourself? It was great. It was great.
That's
terrific.
Let's do it again.
Okay, show Jeremy shot again. Here we go.
Guys.
Oh, man.
What's this?
It got very hard to breathe in there.
Part of what you can't get for this period is the destruction and the ruin of buildings. And we haven't seen many places where we've been able to build this amount and get the actual ruination of really what happened in these towns and the total destruction. So there's a lot of things that we can capture there that probably haven't been captured like this before, which is historically accurate. In some of the older period war films, they didn't get the ruins in because they were too dangerous to be around.
Action!
We had trucks that would go out to various construction sites and demolition sites, and we would purchase rubble from all of those and bring it back and put it into our set.
The gems here are in the details, which Stephen is so dedicated to getting. It's the nuts and bolts of how we did what we did.
Ryan!
I think on a project like this one where you're recreating historical detail, the authenticity is really vital.
World War II, by and large, is a never-ending, fascinating lesson for an actor because there was so much stuff that was very particular to invading Europe that translates in actors' terms, props and movement and costumes.
The wardrobe was a really big deal in the movie. We had thousands of extras and cast, and I think in the beginning all of us felt that, you know, there were lots of war movies that had been made before from this vintage, and that you could probably go and find, you know, a good deal of the wardrobe and either rent it or purchase it.
When I took the job on, I rather stupidly thought that it was going to be incredibly easy because I just sort of gather all these uniforms. And then I started and I found that they didn't exist. You know, they've been worn out and they've been used on other films, and they're very, very few and far between now. So we probably made about 3/4 of the film. So I made probably about 3,500 uniforms altogether. So that then it created this whole new problem of where to get them made and how to get them made. And we found some military like companies who make uniforms for reenactments, events which go on, a huge amount here and even more in America. Had them spread it across probably over about 6 or 7 different companies for making the clothing, and then things like we found the company that made the original American troops' boots in Minnesota, who still make them. So we made 2,000 pairs of these boots from exactly the same pattern, which was quite exciting. Then having made all of this stuff, the next problem was then aging it. Every single item had to go into a process of aging and breaking down and dying, and getting it made was only half the battle. And that, I had no idea when I took it on that it was going to end up being such a incredibly labor-intensive job. It was just enormous getting it all done. I sort of proposed some ideas, like for instance some individuality, like, some of the soldiers used to do stencils on their jacket and personalise things, and I thought just little things that we can do that as much as possible, and just my general character things. Being a girl, I think everybody thought they could, a lot of suppliers could cut corners on me, so that I wouldn't, knowing I wasn't a military expert, so I felt that I had to be sort of double savvy and, come out with all this sort of technical speak. So I also had a military expert in Rifle who gave me a shorthand. He really shorthanded me of what everything should be.
We don't have the obligatory action shot, which is the people running as something, a ball of fire, they throw themselves up.
It was a very happy set throughout the movie. The camaraderie, if you will, that took place, not just with the actors, but with the whole crew, that feeling permeated the whole entire set. Everyone felt that they were contributing to something quite special.
Second camera's past Tom, and Tom drops to the ground as the wall comes down. We go down with Tom, and we're on his profile as the wall comes down.
You want some help setting that up?
Yeah. What do we do? Give me some help. Give me a good angle.
I think we should have one over Tom, and he should go down, and we'll go down with him, and it'll be kind of his profile as the wall goes down.
We are psychic. I was just thinking along the same line.
What about like a high angle just on the wall, and then kind of come down with the debris?
If we can track with just a few of the bricks in the same speed, 32 feet per second.
See, that would be outstanding. I also feel like this barrel, the blast is obliterating a lot of our stuff, so if we could get a camera out in front of the actual barrel
you're
blast.
Absolutely right. That's a great idea.
Maybe put the shaker on it, and we'll get
over here. Over here. We'll do one there in case it gets wiped out. One safety camera here.
How about a safety camera over here?
Safety camera right here.
What about a POV of the actual shell, as it's coming out, and we see these guys looking up watching as it's going over.
So those are the 3 cameras.
We could put a 4th camera maybe tighter on that action right there as the guys climbing the tank. On this angle somewhere.
Why don't we go over there and show the guys climbing the tank from over there with the 4th camera. This is my 4th film with Janusz in a row. I've never worked on 4 films with one cameraman before, especially sequentially like this. And, we just kind of hit it off on Schindler's List and never stopped working together, and I don't plan to. I just think he's the best cameraman I've ever worked with in my life. And just put the other camera, and let me just get a shot of Jackson up here.
What, 135?
135 on Jackson.
200, maybe 200?
What, 200 on, no, 135. So we can see some of the tower.
135, guys?
Yeah. The great thing about Janusz is he's completely a kind of open vessel. He just takes it all in, and like I do, we make very quick, spontaneous decisions.
Move his chair even more, all the way to the curb, please.
And Janusz will know how to light something the second he sees it. He doesn't have to think about it and go off into a neutral corner and angst and bite his nails, although he does bite his nails, but not because he's thinking about how to light something. He knows exactly what it should look like. And very early on in this process, we both knew that we did not want this to look like a Technicolor extravaganza about World War II. We wanted it to look very much like color newsreel footage from the 1940s, which is highly desaturated and very grainy and extremely low-tech.
There are many parallels between this movie and Schindler's List. They both Second War drama, and they were both envisioned in a semi-documentary style. And what I mean documentary style is the way the camera should see the written words. The camera's handheld. the images are very unsteady, very kind of filthy and full of texture. The other idea that immediately came after reading the material was to subtract some of the color out of the movie. That is done through the process of principal photography, and also after when the movie is finished, I will send the negative to additional process that will extract some of the color. So at the end, I would say we will end up with maybe 40% of the color, because that's the right way to go about photographing such a movie as Saving Private Ryan. Through the whole course of the movie, there's virtually not a single shot that has blue sky. I'm going for this kind of burnout, very desaturated, very blurry sky. And I'm using different type of techniques to achieve certain visuals. For example, I've asked Panavision to prepare certain set of lenses for me.
That's beautiful. What lens is this?
29.
Good. Give it 27, please. See it 27.
What they did, they extracted the protective coating inside the lens that prevents the light from bouncing all around. So the images become slightly more diffused and prone to flares, and the skies become burnout, and the whole image becomes a little bit softer without being out of focus.
Our approach to the movie really was the way a documentarian would have approached, being in John Ford's unit, shooting the South Pacific War, or being in George Stevens' unit, shooting the European campaign. We just had a camera, stripped lenses right down to the kind of lenses they actually had in the Second World War. And we shot the film with 90-degree shutters. A lot of the war sequences were shot with 45-degree shutters, which was sort of the shutter degree of some of the old Bell & Howell and film cameras of the 1940s. They were used making those newsreels. And guys, Tom, don't start the dialogue until you clear Eddie, because I want to hear Eddie's line about "I'm good too, Captain." What kind of a warning can Miller call out to the tank once he sees this 20
Flak gun, 20 mil, get him!
What's it called?
Flak gun.
Flak gun.
Get off of me! Get off! Keep your mouth shut.
Flak gun.
By applying 45-degree shutter, we're achieving certain staccato in actor's movement. We're achieving certain crispiness of explosions. Everything becomes slightly more realistic,
I want you here like this, with your back like this.
Okay.
And you're just screaming and kind of like reaching out for these guys, just screaming, like you don't even know you're reaching. You're just reaching out. You're like that.
Mm-hmm.
The audience won't see much difference in this movie, except hopefully, if we've played our cards right and done our jobs, the audience will think that we were there, that we actually were there, as opposed to thinking that we weren't, I suppose. Now, can you, Danny?
Yeah.
Can you keep your hands down and fall? What you're doing is you're breaking your fall. It's phony. That's exactly what I need. That's it with the helmet off. That's beautiful.
There's a lot of awfully great World War II movies, but it hasn't been done for a generation. It's been 30 years since the real sort of like chronicle epic about World War II has been made. And therefore, armed with, the filmmakers of the caliber that are making this one, Mr. Steve Spielberg, as we call him. Steve's doing a good job on this. But also with the technology that is at hand now as far as movie making goes, we're making a historical document here.
And Danny, that was a good stunt fall, man. Pretty good. Pretty damn good. Wait, do it again.
Your gun jammed on chambering the second round, Barry? Well, fortunately, we weren't shooting, so no problem.
I'm getting lessons here.
This is what they call breathing. What's it called? Breathing lessons? Or?
Don't expect to get shot. If you have to pick the whole gun up, pick it up, but don't expect to get shot. Yes, boss!
I didn't know that. It looked like you were firing. You
did
faked
not.
it.
No, I didn't.
You didn't fake it.
No.
You
got
some shots.
Not a one.
Good scene, Eddie. Adam and Sarge. Fabulous. All you guys. That was great.
135.
Without the invasion of Europe, the Axis forces would never have been beaten. And we had to get into Europe. It was the biggest combined operation assault landing that had ever been engaged, ever.
Omaha Beach was a slaughter. Omaha Beach was a complete foul-up. Everything about it, from the saturation bombing of the coastline, which missed most of their primary targets, certainly the big bunkers and the defilades with the 20-millimeter machine guns and the 30 cals and all the things the Germans had up there, weren't taken out. And so Omaha Beach was a complete error. A slaughter.
Action!
propellers a little higher when you talk. With that in mind, I didn't want to bring all my boys over from America to glamorize what had really happened. So I tried to be as brutally honest as I could with what we had.
First wave ineffective. We do not hold the beach. Say again, we do not hold the beach. Throw me stuff, sir. We got the leftovers from Fox Company.
Your party! Your party!
It is a factual film with the horrors of war clearly and fearlessly explained.
Logistically, it was a nightmare because we had to have a harbor, we had to have beach access, we had to have a certain tide, we had to have a certain amount of beach left when the tide was in so the crew could stay there. We had to be able to house 1,000 Army.
We decided to shoot in Ireland for several reasons. The real beaches in Normandy have restrictions in terms of the types of filming activity that can be conducted there. And also from an aesthetic standpoint, there were now some power plants and buildings that interrupted the natural flow of the beaches.
We needed the sand initially to match Omaha and the color of the sand, the golden sand. And then the cliff line there is set back somewhat further than it is here, but we needed a cliff line and a landscape beyond that wasn't 20th century. And so our searches both worked along the cliff line, both in the water. We needed an amount of land off coast that would allow us to land the landing craft, no wave cut platforms, and then land above it where we could actually work and build a film set. So they were quite specific criterion.
It's great that you will be able to come here. The film that you're going to take part in is a film called Saving Private Ryan.
They decided that they would employ people from the reserve forces of the defense forces, and they got 2,500 troops. This proved highly successful from the point of view of command and leadership. It just wouldn't be possible with a civilian group of people of that number.
The real stars on the beach here, I think, are members of the Irish Army that's helping us to recreate the largest manned invasion in history on Omaha Beach during D-Day. I went through the ranks of some of the soldiers in the Irish Army, and a lot of them, once we began talking, they all suddenly developed acting experience and wanted to further their careers as actors. I think once you get around a movie set, no matter what line of work you're in, everybody wants to sort of be in the foreground and become an actor, which is great.
At the moment, we're running 750 soldiers on the set, 250 of them with the real guns and the others with the dummy guns, you know, a composite mix of them. Their age ranges from 17, 18-year-old students right the way through to 40-year-old men.
We pre-fitted everybody, and they came in groups, and we sort of set up these kind of bulk fittings. We did 20 men at a time for pre-fits, and then everything was preset, and then they came in the morning per platoon again, and they went through incredibly smoothly. I have a brilliant crew who kept them up to speed.
Block on, guys. It's going to be hot out there. As soon as you're done, get the block on.
And 3, 2, 1, fire!
Well, the Irish Army have been fantastic. I mean, it's an armourer's dream. We've got 2,000 weapons, 500 of them are capable of firing blanks, 1,500 are rubber. They all need dusting down each evening and keeping clean, keeping the paint on them. It's getting harder and harder to find them, but they're still there. It took us 3 months to gather everything that we wanted.
All set for rehearsal. On the firing line, unlock. Background. Action. Fire.
From training the extras, we then are responsible for the issuing of the weapon to them. We're responsible for the safety of that person while he's firing the weapon. Because it's been adapted to fire blanks, it's not like the real thing. Ammunition, guys, throw it all in. We have to look after the actors, and obviously we have to get everything back at the end of the day. So I become a little bit easy around about 9:30 at night when we confirm that the armory is full and we can all go home. Every weapon has to be checked, because if there's any obstruction in the barrel, we've got a problem. So we have to drop the restrictors, we have to try and blow out the sand. Some of the weapons you can't even unlock, especially if the guy's been running past an explosion. As it's gone off, that weapon is just full of sand and salt water.
We actually looked for landing craft all over the world, and we found some in England, a couple in Scotland, but interestingly enough, we found the majority of them in Palm Springs, California. We bought them, shipped them over, refurbished them, and here they are behind us.
There's a couple of days on this movie where they'll ask us, boy, how did you do that? How'd you get that stuff when there were 30 guys in that boat out on the heaving Irish Sea and water was coming up all over you, were drenched in water and you were heaving and pitching and bang, bang, and then you hit the beach and everybody stormed off and all those guys got shot and they fell down. How'd you do that? And we'll say, well, we put 30 guys in a boat and we went out on the heaving, tossing Irish Sea and the water was all coming down, then we hit the beach and then all those guys got shot.
All right, let's roll.
That's how we did it.
Okay, we're rolling. Increase your speed as best you can. Let's have them go as fast as they can.
From what I read in like the D-Day book, there was just like a hailstorm of bullets ricocheting all through the boats and men dropping all around them. And, you know, all their friends dying in like a bloody mess all around them. And being out there that day on the Irish Sea in those boats gave me that sensation, just a subtle sensation of what that must have been like, those men.
All of the research that we had done, both privately and collectively, could not have prepared us.
Nobody was prepared for how horrific it really was.
I remember one day just getting prepared to do a shot, and there was this young fellow with his whole stomach, abdomen area blowing apart with his intestines hanging out. And I knew that it was prosthetic. I knew that it was plastic and that it was like fake blood. But I happened to catch it out of the corner of my eye, and I just, you know, it just all of a sudden my stomach, you know, tensed, and I just couldn't look at it.
Where's the first explosion?
Yes, Janet.
Safety is paramount, and especially with Stephen as well. Stephen's very, very safety conscious, and he wants people like myself and Simon to say, look, this is not safe, and he's quite happy to alter the shot.
When is that supposed to go off?
Well, they were going to watch the rehearsals. I'm just waiting for Stephen is excellent with stunts. He knows exactly what he wants. And he's really giving you the reins.
No, is this safe?
You've got to actually convince him that it's both safe and it's going to look good. But he's an ideal director for stunts. He'll never try and push it too far, and you know, he'll let all the professionals do their job.
And then, can you guys trigger that when he's right here?
We can trigger that one. Yeah.
Is that safe
So
when
Simon,
he's right here?
You do that one and you do that one.
You've always got to take the audience's eye off the person that's getting set up for the explosion. Just by someone crossing in foreground, you can do that quite easily.
Inside the script, they can pile up pieces of shoe and material from the pants and go flying in the
It's
air.
like little mortars, really like those mortars.
Little mortars. Does that make us ready on that one?
Yeah, almost. One more rehearsal so the boys know exactly what's happening.
Let's have another rehearsal. Good idea.
I had to run across the beach, and there are these huge explosions going off. And as I get within like 3 feet of them, one goes off, and then another one, and then just as I pass another one, it goes off. Had never done anything like that before.
You're all set? And background?
It was, at the same time, terrifying and also just so exhilarating. I mean, you black out. I mean, you really do. It's like you get blinders on, and you're unaware of everything that's going on, but somehow you manage to find your mark and, you know, hit the beach and do all that.
It's hard exacting work because we have to be very safe and we have to be very certain that we're recreating the authenticity of D-Day and at the same time maintain everybody's safety and relative comfort. So it's very hard work. I'm only really getting about 2 shots a morning and 2 or 3 shots in an afternoon, which is sort of the slowest I think I've worked for many, many years. But you know, safety prohibits us from moving any faster, and we also want to get the details right because part of making this a believable invasion are really in the details more than in any large dramatic moments.
On a film of this scale, or any scale really, we do a lot of rehearsals. We work hand in hand, not just with special effects, but just with the scenic people, you know, production designer. Certain sets have to be designed around what we need to do. You know, like say, for instance, the fire sequence we're going to do later on this afternoon. That observation bunker needs to be flame-proofed, and we need to be able to fit through the gap. So all that's gone through beforehand. Basically, what we're setting up here is that one of the GIs comes into that bunker with a flamethrower, and there's a lot of Germans in there, and basically he hoses them all down. The sequence we're doing here is the exterior part, which is them already being on fire and falling down or getting caught up there, and then he'll die and drop out. And all stunt guys into your positions, please.
About a minute away, guys.
With all the actors, we make it very safe for them. We never could put them in a position, or anyone in a position where it wasn't safe. But that's why we employ a lot of stunt people, in that they're not employed to take the risk, they're employed to minimize the risk, because that's what their speciality is.
Here we go, and background, and action!
For this one sequence we did with the flamethrower exploding, we used a new technique really. Basically we put explosives in a dummy flamethrower so the guy could run away from us, the camera could be looking at the back of the flamethrower, and it literally exploded, throwing out a load of flames. Now the guys that were the three people that were going to be ignited were already immersed in this sort of petrogel, so they'd catch fire anyway. Put all the stunt people into position and gel them up, please, gel them up.
Guys, please quiet now.
Just to emphasize the explosive nature, say, of a flamethrower, we had a propane gas jet that would fire liquid propane that would turn into vapor at the person running towards him. So suddenly you'd get this huge fireball with immense heat, and it would catch everything around there on fire, which it would be like with a flamethrower exploding. Basically, you need to put them out as quickly as possible. I'm timing each sequence. The most we really want someone on fire is 15 seconds. That's really ample. And the safety people will go in, and their duty is really not just to put them out, but they have to get the silicone mask off, because although they're not on fire anymore, the heat starts to transfer very quickly through the silicone, so you've got to get the mask off very quickly.
The shots we've been making this morning have been a series of visual effects shots for our friends at ILM to add in a multitude of landing craft and other amphibious assault vessels that were coming ashore for the invasion. So we have some of our landing craft behind us, and we used all of them, and then ILM will enhance the shots with many more. Depending on how many Stephen would like to add, there could be as many as hundreds in the background. On the scale that we're talking about, it would be very difficult to recreate those scenes without digital effects.
Ultimately, the triumph of D-Day was that non-commissioned officers and privates and groups of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 young soldiers, some 18, 19 years old, took the initiative and did what needed to be done. The Normandy invasion, especially the early days of it, the getting off the beaches and fighting through the bocage was done by very small units, many of them without real leadership with personal initiative.